Radha Kunjavihari Gopijana Balaba Girivaradari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari Gopijana Balaba Girivaradari Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari
Prabhupada was acting as the protector and the parent of the devotees and of his own body, as he has guided them in natural devotion. Many great devotees have an internal relationship with Krishna as his protector. When, as a child, Krishna had fought the serpent Kali, Krishna's mother and father had been plunged into transcendental anxiety. They had seen their child entangled in the coils of the serpent and fearing for Krishna's life and wanted to protect him.
Okay, stop there. I can get it.
The eternal mother and father of Krishna always worried that Krishna may meet in harm. And when danger appears to come, the natural anxiety increases many times. In this way, they show the most intense love for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's move was to protect Radha Rasa Vihari, and also his Krishna consciousness movement. Although he knew that Krishna was the supreme protector and that nobody could oppose his will, out of a protective desire to spread Krishna's glories, he feared that the evil Mr. M might harm Krishna. Prabhupada's feelings of anxiety and protectiveness extended to his disciples also. He saw them as children with little worldly experience. They didn't know how to deal with rogues and could be easily tricked. But if the son was gullible, the father would have to be shrewd and strong to protect his family. As protector of the devotees and of Krishna's mission, Prabhupada wanted to establish good housing so that his disciples could serve Krishna in comfort, even elegance. Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, had taught the same thing when he had said that preachers of Krishna consciousness should have the best of everything, because they are doing the best service to Krishna. Prabhupada was therefore determined to establish his Hare Krishna city in Bombay. He did not take the attitude of a naked mendicant
who cares for nothing of this material world. He felt responsible for his thousands of disciples and therefore he took on so many anxieties. Mr. N could not know what motives were driving Srila Prabhupada, nor could he imagine the ramifications of opposing Krishna and Krishna's pure devotee, even though the danger of such a position had been explained in India's most famous classics, the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Ramayana. Prabhupada was fighting on the side of Krishna. Therefore, Mr. N was opposing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam 3. Chapter 13. Text number 18 onwards. We'll do the verse 25 actually. So just read the translation. O sinless Vidura, all of a sudden, while Brahma was engaged in thinking, a small form of a boar came out of his nostril. The measurement of the creature was not more than the upper portion of a thumb. O descendant of Bharata, while Brahma was observing him, that boar became situated in the sky in a wonderful manifestation as gigantic as a great elephant. Struck with wonder at observing the wonderful boar-like form in the sky, Brahma, with great brahmanas like Marichi, as well as the Kumaras and Manu, began to argue in various ways. Is this some extraordinary entity come in the pretense of a boar? It is very wonderful that he has come from my nose. First of all this boar was seen no bigger than the tip of a thumb, and within a moment he was as large as a stone. My mind is perturbed. Is he the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu? While Brahma was deliberating with his sons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, roared tumultuously like a great mountain. The omnipotent Supreme Personality of Godhead enlivened Brahma and the other highly elevated Brahmanas by again roaring with his uncommon voice, which echoed in all directions. So that's today's verse. Nishamya te gargaritam svakeda. Nishamya te gargaritam svakeda. Nishyamyate gargaritam svakeda. Kshayishnu Mayamaya Sukarasya Kshayishnu Mayamaya Sukarasya Kshayishnu Mayamaya Sukarasya Janas Tapa Satya Nivasinas Te Janas Tapa Satya Nivasinas Te Janas Tapa Satya Nivasinas Te Tribi Pavitrair Munayo Grinan Sma Tribi Pavitrair Munayo Grinan Sma Tribi Pavitrair Munayo Grinan Sma Nishamyatre Gargaritam Svakeda Kshayishnumaya maya sukarasya janastapasatya nivasinaste Tribhi pavitrair munayogrinan Nishamyate gargaritam svakeda Kshayishnumaya maya sukarasya Janastapasatya nivasinaste Tribhi pavitrair munayogrinan Nishamyate gargaritam svakeda Kshayishnumaya maya sukarasya Janastapasatya nivasinaste Tribhi pavitrair munayogrinan Nishamyate gargaritam svakeda Kshayishnumaya maya sukarasya Janastapasatya nivasinaste Tribhi pavitrair munayogrinan Nishamyate gargaritam svakeda Kshayishnumaya maya sukarasya Janastapasatya nivasinaste Tribhi pavitrair munayogrinan Nishamyate gargaritam svakeda Kshayishnumaya maya sukarasya Janastapasatya nivasinaste Tribhi pavitrai munayogrinan Nishamya. Just after hearing te those gargaritam, the tumultuous sound, swakeda, personal lamentation, kshayishnu, destroying, maya maya, all merciful, sukarasya, of Lord Boar, janaha, the Janaloka planet, tapaha, the Tapaloka planet, satya, the Satyaloka planet, nivasana, residents, te, all of them, tribihi, from the three Vedas, pavitrahi, by the all auspicious mantras, munayaha, great thinkers and sages, agrinam sma, chanted. Krishna purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. When the great sages and thinkers who are residents of Janaloka, Tapaloka and Satyaloka heard the tumultuous voice of Lord Boar, which was the all-auspicious sound of the all-merciful Lord, they chanted auspicious chants from the three Vedas. Purport. The word Maya, Maya, is very significant in this verse. Maya means mercy, specific knowledge, and also illusion. Therefore, Lord Boar is everything. He is merciful, He is all knowledge, and He is illusion also. The sound which He vibrated as the Boar incarnation was answered by the Vedic hymns of the great sages in the planets Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. The highest intellectual and pious living entities live in those planets, and when they heard the extraordinary voice of the boar, they could understand that the specific sound was vibrated by the Lord and no one else. Therefore, they replied by praying to the Lord with Vedic hymns. The earth planet was submerged in the mire, but on hearing the sound of the Lord, the inhabitants of the higher planets were all jubilant because they knew that the Lord was there to deliver the earth. Therefore, Brahma and all the sages, such as Bhrigu, Brahma's other sons, and learned Brahmanas, were enlivened, and they concertedly joined in praising the Lord with the transcendental vibrations of the Vedic hymns. The most important is the Brihan Naradiya Purana verse, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Gyanatimирandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamshcha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shirada Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Translation again. When the great sages and thinkers who are residents of Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka heard the tumultuous voice of Lord Bor, which was the all-auspicious sound of the all-merciful Lord, they chanted auspicious chants from the three Vedas. Just to give a little bit of background to this pastime, there is actually quite a bit of background, but try to cover it in short. Once upon a time, four Kumaras were on a space journey. They went to see Lord Narayan, and because they had a form of small boys, they were four brahmacharis, they decided to keep the form of small boys, because what happens at puberty, kind of sex desire kicks in, and it really changes your consciousness. It definitely kind of affects significantly this quite a transformation in the mind and in the body. So therefore they decided just keep small innocent boys so that they don't get affected by that. And also what happens with the small kids, they can kind of crawl and get into places where the adults are not allowed. They can just sneak in, and if they do something wrong, then they say, okay, it's just the kids, it's no problem. So they approached the gates of Vaikuntha, and there was two gatekeepers, Jai and Vijay, and they saw the small boys, and they didn't allow them to come through. And also, of course, that was a test to the sages to a certain degree, and they become very angry and upset, and they cursed, how dare you, we are sages, elevated souls, we want to enter Vaikuntha to see Lord Narayan, how dare you to obstruct our movements. And they cursed them to take birth in material world. And then Lord Narayan appeared to resolve the situation. And actually, although there was disagreement between these two groups of devotees, actually Lord Narayan took responsibility for it as the Supreme Lord. Says, if there is disagreement, you took a responsibility because it is my fault. And he glorified his devotees that the lotus feet of the devotees and the lotus feet of him actually has a purifying power because I am a servant of my devotees. So then he gave a opportunity or a chance to choose for Jaya and Vijay, whether they want to come back in 3 births as demons, after 3 births as demons, or in 7 births as pious people. And Jaya and Vijay wanted to come back as soon as possible. So they thought, okay, let's be demons for 3 births. And actually, that was the supreme will of the Lord. Actually, because Lord was in a fighting spirit. So when the Lord is in a fighting spirit, there's not so much opportunity there in Vaikuntha to fight the demons. Everybody is a devotee. So therefore, when there's a desire like this, then devotees actually can take birth as demons in order to fight with the Lord. Because Lord generally he likes to interact with devotees. So in the first birth, they were born as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. When they were taking birth, it was like a very, very inauspicious signs everywhere. The jackals were howling and the dogs were barking, and there was rain. There was actually, it was raining with pus, stool, and urine. You can imagine. You can imagine. It's difficult to imagine. So it was like a very kind of dark and gloomy situation. And when they were born, first came out Hiranyaksha, and it's considered that for twins, when they come out, they're actually twins. For the first person that comes out is considered a younger brother, because one who is in the back, that is the senior one, although he's opposite in what they think nowadays in modern science, but actually the first one that comes out is a younger, and the second one is the senior. So Hiranyakashipu came out second and was very, very powerful, performed great austerities, conquered the universe. And Hiranyaksha, as a younger brother, was assisting him like anything. And there was like a really, the whole universe went under their control. Hiranyaksha went to heavenly planets. Demigods were hiding everywhere. You couldn't even find them. And then eventually he went to Varuna. And he said, there was Varuna. He followed his lotus feet. And he was like a really cynical and kind of making jokes out of him. And he said, please give me an opportunity to fight you. I want to fight you. And Varuna, I said, I'm really old, better that you find Lord Vishnu. He was a bit tricky, you know that you cannot defeat Vishnu. And he said, I heard that Vishnu has appeared on the planet. So Hiranyaksha got fired up. I want to fight Lord Vishnu, who appeared as a boar. In the meantime, what was happening, so Embuva Manu, who is one of the managers of the universe, he approached Lord Brahma and he said that to Lord Brahma, that while Brahma was doing and creating the universe, this was all happening in Satya Yuga. It was like a beginning of creation. And Lord Brahma was creating and designing and engineering the universe. And so Embuva Manu approached him and he said that Earth has fallen out of its orbit into the Garbhodak Ocean, under the water, and landed into kind of filthy place. And of course, how this is possible. Sometimes it sounds Bhagavatam story, and appearance of the Lord and incarnation sounds like a really, really like almost mythological or like a fantastic and like a difficult to believe. But we need to open our minds and hearts to this inconceivable pastimes of the Lord. I mean, you don't know. We only here in the material existence, we are so much familiar with the physical reality that we can perceive with our eyes. But there is a subtle reality. and there is also a spiritual reality. So modern science is very focused on a physical reality, but they are not aware of a subtle reality. What about what to speak about spiritual reality? So therefore, the shastras and the sages and the pure devotees can open up for us subtle and most important the spiritual reality. So we need, and that can be experienced and recognized through transcendental sound vibration of the shastra, and that are then transmitted. Pure devotees then transmitted through Guru Parampara. We receive this knowledge, and we can understand in the beginning to some extent, and in due course of time, with full conviction, we can realize the reality of these pastimes. And as well, how the earth could have fallen out of the orbit in a filthy place. But even if you think Lord Brahma is an engineer, is kind of engineering things, and sometimes those who did a bit of engineering and construction work, some part, it just falls off and goes into the dirt, into the dirty place. Or like a few devotees are cooking in a kitchen, and sometimes cauliflower falls from the table and lands on the floor into a filthy place, and then you have to wash it very nicely, pick it up, wash it, and place it where it belongs. Or sometimes we may fall in a filthy place ourselves. We can become filthy with lust, anger, greed, etc., offenses. And sometimes there is nobody else who can pick it up as except the Lord and His merciful devotees. uh, so this is like a prelude of this past, and actually the earth, and as well, like if you look in the present earth, is also kind of it has become a really filthy place. So it may not necessarily happen that physically it went out of orbit and fell, but actually more on a subtle ways, and even in a gross ways, the earth has become really, really filthy, Mother Bhumi, in terms of how we're treating the planet, in terms of how much there is pollution and etc. It has become a filthy place, and more on a subtle level, it has become really filthy in terms of desires of the living entities, of the greed, and trying to control various parts of the planet or exploit its resources. This so it has become a filthy place, and it really needs picked up from that dirty place and raised back into its pure state, or in its pure orbit. So this was the situation. Earth went out of its normal orbit and become, fell in a dirty place. So Lord Brahma, he didn't know what to do. He was confused. Although he's like an engineer of the universe and has got great powers himself, he had this humility that uh, I I only can do things by the mercy of the Lord. I cannot resolve it myself, and it is a lesson for us. No matter how powerful we may be, like Lord Brahma is the most powerful entity in the universe. He doesn't feel himself an independent master or engineer or Lord that can resolve everything by his own powers. Shishikodanitaya Marapurusha ki Jaya. He's got full realization that in any powers of creation, construction, etc. He's the secondary creator, is getting those powers from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So immediately he took shelter of the Lord and started meditate on the Lord, how to resolve this problem. So he's trying to connect and get some intelligence, some guidance, some inspiration. He thought, I need the Lord's help here. How am I gonna pick up, because it's like deep under the water in a dirty place. Usually, as well, Brahma is the greatest Brahmana. He's very pure. So getting there into dirty place to pick something up. Sometimes, not so many people want to get their hands dirty when something gets really dirty. not many people want to get there, kind of get into that situation to clean things. Um, so Lord Brahma was thinking what to do, and this is the moment when boar, and it's called tip of the thumb. It's a very very small place. It came out of his nose, and of course, there's very rare, or not even rare. It's unheard of that anybody is born from a nose. Usually in this world, when somebody is born, is quite a painful, difficult situation. But he didn't even had to blow his nose. He didn't have even to blow his nose. It just came out. So this is, sometimes the Lord appears in a normal way, like what is called normal in the material world, by birth from a womb of a mother. But sometimes it comes in this extraordinary ways just to defy all the laws and just to show, how he doesn't have to follow any laws, and he is born out of nose, and then became grow and grow and grow and become this huge, gigantic thing. And of course, we not have a physical experience of this small something coming out of the nose and becoming really huge. Of course, I mean, when you're really sick, then you can produce quite a lot. Uh, but anyway, I don't want to get the gross. But sometimes it can happen more on a subtle level that a small thing can come into our mind, and if it becomes if it stays there, something unexpressed or undealt, it can become a huge thing. This is how we get mental. This small little thing comes into the mind and it seems to be quite innocent. And a few seconds later, you go what is called rabbit hole. It goes the rabbit hole, and from one thing to another, it can happen in a japa. This little thing like, do you remember that summer in 1977? And the thing start, oh yeah. And then suddenly you're just thinking completely nothing related to Krishna consciousness, completely off track, maybe some sinful thought. So you can go that rabbit hole. So this is how like the small thing can become this huge massive mountain, unsurmountable. And then we sometimes need to beg for the mercy of devotees to help us. um, but this is will happen on a physical plane. Lord Barahadev started to grow bigger and bigger and bigger and become huge like a mountain. And he was roaring. When somebody is roaring, especially the boar or a lion can create a fear, and even like, those big massive boars that live in forest, they are actually can be quite dangerous beings. You don't want to cross a road of one of those in a forest. So yes, became this roar can be fearful, but roar of boar was very nice. The sages, they loved it. They started to praise with hymns. In the beginning, of course, they didn't recognize what's going on, but then they understood this our Lord. And he was glancing at them, and he was whisking his tail. Is it called whisking? What is the word? Wagging. He was wagging his tail, and with his hooves, he was breaking the clouds. And you can see in the picture, it looks like a very jolly and happy occasion, and everybody was praising and glorifying him. And what the boars do, they can recognize where there is, they can sniff. They have a very good sense of smell, and they can find, eatables and etc. So of course, boar is considered not very auspicious animal in this material existence. They pick up dirty places, and whoever been to India, is considered a very low animal. However, when the Supreme Lord takes the form of the boar, that is the most auspicious and the most wonderful occasion. So he immediately went to the job. He dived right into the Garbhodok ocean, and his power and the strength was so strong that actually he started to it divided the water into two. Imagine when somebody like really, really heavy goes into the water, it usually rises like this. So it looked like he's cutting into two Garbhodak ocean when he went deep under the water, and he found the earth and picked it up from this what is called mire and dirty at the very bottom of the ocean, and started picked it up with his hoofs, because uh, boars has got his hoofs. Actually, I don't know if you ever had experience, but in Lithuania, in the forest, there is lots of boars, and when you go in there, you can see almost like they make those, like with the plow, you make a, how you call it, the this line with the plow that you make in the earth. Anyways, like with this line, so the boars can do that as well with the hoofs. So he picked up with the hoofs and started to lift the earth out of the water. And this is where you might have forgotten about Hiranyaksha, was around and he was looking for Vishnu. And at the time when he was lifting the planet Earth out of the water and heading to put it in a safe place, this is where Hiranyaksha appeared and started to uh, abuse the Lord with dirty words and kind of chastising, and come here and fight, you boor and you weak person, and etc. And but Lord was completely ignoring him. He was on a mission. So Prabhupada actually explains in the purports of those verses that sometimes as a devotee you may be on a mission and somebody may belittle you and chastise you and use dirty words. Like sometimes people are called who take to religious life. Your scapegoat. You're like escaping the material life. You're taking shelter of this God and etc. You can get various types of blame, and they may call you coward. Why you're like practicing this mantra, this chanting. Just do something more useful, and try to fix the world with your hands and intelligence and etc. But as we realize from the Shastra, nothing can be fixed without the mercy of the Lord. Like even nowadays, there is an attempt to fix the planet, but actually without the mercy of the Lord is not possible. It requires like some deep adjustment, not just on a physical level, but on a level of purity and purification of an existence in order to solve the problems of the planet. So Lord Bohr completely ignored Hiranyaksha. He was on a mission. He had to first to fix the planet, and then he put the planet in a safe place on the top of the Garbhodak ocean, and then he faced Hiranyaksha. There was this really powerful fight. They had maces. I wasn't exactly sure what is the mace yesterday. I Googled, and it's quite a ferocious instrument. This big, massive metal thing, and at the top of the metal thing, you have this like spikes and whatever to cause the damage in a fight and kind of create some pain to the enemy. So they were really, really fighting and perspiring and like anything. And the night was approaching, and usually at night the demons become even more powerful. So Brahma then came and said, please kill him. The demon is going to become very, very powerful. The night is approaching. And also around that time, he also manifested some mystic powers. Then there was darkness and various screams, and all sorts of dirty things started to fall from the sky. But then Lord Boar, he released Sudarshan Chakra, and everything was dispelled, showing that by the mercy of the Lord, all the magic and all the negativity and inauspiciousness get removed immediately, or in due course of time when the Lord thinks it's his right moment, and then everything becomes auspicious. So he dispelled all that magic, and then they were kind of started to fight a little bit in a closer combat. And what Lord Boar do, just like this, sometimes parents do, although they have to be very careful nowadays because they can get into jail for doing it if the child complains. He just did like this, in the ear, a little slap with his hoof. and Hiranyaksha immediately died. Immediately fell down dead. So that was that for Hiranyaksha, and then the earth was placed back into its orbit. So this is kind of a lesson for us, that we may fall into some filthy place ourselves, whatever the case may be, maybe overwhelmed with lust, anger, or greed, or envy, or whatever the case may be. There's so many anarthas in this material existence, or offenses, and you commit offenses and go into this filthy place. And therefore, we need to take shelter of the devotees, we need to take shelter of the Lord to pick us up. And this is the opportunity for us today to pray to Lord Varahadev. As mentioned, sometimes the situation is kind of dirty and messy, and not so many people want to uh, do this dirty job. But the Lord and pure devotees of the Lord, they're always very, very merciful. They're always prepared to lift us up, no matter how difficult and precarious the situation may be. We can take shelter of the Lord, we can take shelter of the devotees. We committed offenses, we can apologize in the devotees and beg for forgiveness and mercy. And then we can become again lifted and reinstated into our constitutional position as eternal servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. And it's very, very interesting. Just to finish a couple more sentences. That pure devotees, they do as well this mission, like Srila Prabhupada as well, to lift the earth from its dirty situation, and Lord Chaitanya as well, or starting from Lord Chaitanya, and Prabhupada is executing Lord Chaitanya's mission, is to lift this earth from this mire of material existence, from the mire of Kali Yuga and pollution of Kali Yuga, and through the chanting of the holy name and mercy of the Vaishnavas and propagating Sankirtan movement, to place this earth back into the service of the Lord. And Mother Bhumi is meant for the service of the Lord. Sorry, I have a question there.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for a very inspiring and profound and deeply insightful class. And I was just wondering, you mentioned in the class about we should open our heart. It's like a cliche. We hear it quite often. People saying we need to open our heart. And I was just wondering, what does that practically look like? If you decided you wanted to open your heart today, what would that look like?
Thank you. It happens all the time when the problems of not opening the heart, because it means many things, but I can take this one angle. For example, of Jed, not Jed Bharat, it was Ajamil. Ajamil, he was kind of provoked, and he's seen prostitute embracing and etc., and it kind of planted the seed in his mind. As we spoken a bit earlier, how the things can come into the mind, and the small thing can become a big thing. So you have to actually release it from your mind in a verbal form while it is still small. While it is the size of a thumb. Because if it becomes this huge, massive thing, and it can manifest eventually into action, we can go completely off track into devotional service, and sometimes we can even give up devotional service. So while it is of the thumb size, that whatever problem may be, whether there is some lust, or some anger, or some envy, or some offense as well, you want to cut down in the early stages before it becomes like something really, really big. And this principle of revealing the mind and confidence, we need to have a devotee to whom we can open our heart, or heart and mind is considered synonymous in Vedic literature. The seat of the mind is in the heart, and not in what we think in the head, but is actually heart. And if we release and share, the problem that we have with the devotees, while it is a thumb size, then it doesn't become this big, huge, massive thing. And that's why as well various types of communication is very helpful. Channels of communication can be established. It's very, very healthy thing. It allows before while it is a thumb size, whatever the problem may be, is to hear it, release it, address it before it becomes this big, massive mountain. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Vivek, thank you. I have a couple of questions, and one, I'm wondering, what could be your advice on knowing who it is that we can share our mind to?
Sorry, can you repeat this again?
How to know who we can share our mind to?
Yeah, it's a very good question to find a suitable person to reveal mind. Sometimes, it's like, of course, one is external is symptoms of being a fixed devotee. Like you can see how somebody has got a taste for hearing and chanting. He's got very good, strong sadhana. He's got experience and can give an advice. And also, you can start, with a small advice. It's not like you necessarily just immediately reveal everything. You can, there is always some smaller things that you can test the water, and then you see whether how person is able to address the problem, or whether is getting worse, or is getting better. The person is able to give us a good advice and help us to get back on track. Whether confidentiality is maintained. When you you release, and a few months later you hear that everybody knows about it, then it's not the right person. So there's a confidentiality maintained. And then, as the trust develops, and this, from both sides, if you want that people come and approach us and trust us, there is some development of a relationship is required, and confidentiality, and prayer as well. As we can see, Lord Brahma didn't think that he can solve everything. So maybe a person is can be humble enough to pass us to another person. I think, okay, I'm not the right person, and can pass us to the person who is the right. So like that, we can then find a person and develop a significant trust that we can reveal some bigger problems, or even sometimes some fundamental issues and problems, reveal them, and they get released before they become this big mountain thing. So it's very, very important to learn from the Shastras that we don't allow to come to the further stages, and that works as well in our individual life and also collectively as a community, as to create a cultural situation that things doesn't escalate, and they're addressed while they're still over thumb size. So I'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande.
His Grace Raghunatha Bhatta Das Prabhu ki jai.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.